Hello, welcome to a March for the Ages. My name is Joshua Trimble from Booker T. Washington Magnet High School. Our guest today is Commissioner Elton Dean. You are the first African American chairman of the Montgomery County Commission. Can you please talk about how that has impacted you and the people around you?
Well, I am the first African American chairman of Montgomery County Commission, but that's just a title. That means I just chair the commission. I have four other commissioners. I call them my teammates, and I represent District 2 in Montgomery County. But as the chair, you take the position that you represent all of Montgomery County, and you assist the other commissioners in whatever they might need for the areas that they represent. And it just, I guess I'm blessed and I'm fortunate to be the first African American, but I believe that when my peers and my teammates voted for me, they believed that I could have that leadership quality and do the things that I need to do to make sure that they get what they want.
So, as a council member, you have to be a leader and you have to show leadership. And how do you do that personally?
Well, in leadership, you lead.
Right.
I always talk about teaming, and I always talk about family. You know, I'm married, and I've been married for 44 years. I lead my family, but we also share in our brainstorming session. We pray together. We make decisions together, and that's the same. I brought that to the commission, in my other leadership positions in my church. I always believe in coming around the table and being inclusive. You can't lead by yourself. It's the people that's beneath you that they're the foot soldiers. They
Absolutely.
do the things that you need them to do, but you have to
Absolutely.
motivate.
On March 25th, 1965, you and some fellow students joined a march to the Capitol in support of voting rights. This action was officially not supported by Montgomery Public Schools. Was this decision to leave hard, and how did it impact you then, and how does it impact you even now today?
Well, when you read about, we used to have a class in the public school system called Alabama History, and now that they don't have that, and we learned a lot about Alabama history. We also, at that particular time, knew that when people wanted to go and vote, they would ask them to name all the counties in the state of Alabama. They would ask them some other foreseen question that they couldn't answer, which they did not do that for the Caucasian, who were already voting. So when it came that we knew that the march was coming in '65, our principal called us to the auditorium, and he begged us not to leave campus because he might lose his job. So we had some students out there waiting for the marchers to gather up and get ready to go that march downtown. They said, "Here come the march." And so everybody in that gymnasium ran out of the gymnasium and joined the march. It was important at that time that we show our support for the people who had been beaten and who had been killed. It was just something that, you know, it touched your heart.
Right.
And it's something that you really needed to know, that you really needed to do at that particular time. So students had a very important part, even though the public school system did not sanction that. But we, as a group of students, felt like we had the right and the need to go out there and join that march, and we did so.
And you talked about how in the Alabama history class that you took, heard about the voting rights that were restricted from you. And a lot of times when we think of the beatings that you talked about and the hoses and the dogs that attacked the marchers, we talk about how the visual and the vivid memories that we have. Are those the most vivid memories that you have of the civil rights movement, or what is the most vivid memory that you do have?
Those are, Josh, when you can see how little girls were killed in Birmingham, when you
Right.
see how the Viola Luiso's white Caucasian female with children was killed, when you heard something about the other guys being thrown over in the river, people being hung, crosses being burned. I mean, those are the kind of memories. You heard about blacks who decided they would want to date a Caucasian lady. being accused of rape and being electrocuted. Those are things that I remember that it was not equal. It
Right.
was not equal. Guys sent to prison, they couldn't walk around with a white Caucasian female under their arms and stuff like that, like they do today. But those are the things that I remember. It was very, I was fearful. I was afraid to talk to a white person, a white female. Uh, and that because the thing that I had heard, the things that we had seen on TV, because back during that time you didn't have all the cable TV. You had
Right.
a couple of TV stations that you always had to watch. And when the news came on, my mom made sure that we sit by the TV together and watch those types of things. So we were firsthand.
So you talk about the fearful things that are happening during this time. There are a lot of lynchings and beatings and everything. So when you went out to this march, what motivated you to do that when you were afraid? And was there somebody during the time who was a hero to you who really empowered you to do these things?
Yeah, Reverend Solomon Say was a minister that he was a minister in Fort Deposit. My family ministered in Fort Deposit, also at the AME Zion Church here in Montgomery, out of the Madison Park area. He was a person that I always listened to, always admired because he always taught those family values. And my father died when I was 9 years old. That was 1958. So I never did uh, 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 be around the people my age. I always listened to the older people.
Right.
And so I had a lot of fathers. I had a lot of mothers because my mom was a single parent at that particular time. And but Reverend Solomon Say was a person that stood out during that time. And another minister who was the first black person to run for mayor, it was my minister, was Reverend Percy Smith at Mount Zion AME Zion Church. He was another one. So I would say my AME Zion ministers.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. From a civil rights perspective, what has changed the most? I know even now today we still have issues with race and segregation and prejudice, but what has changed the most today, and more importantly, what has changed the least?
Well, what has changed more back during the time the civil rights marches and the bus boycotts and all those things, we had what they called the church played a very important role. I mean, we did not have black politicians. Okay, we had ministers and we had people that were faithful in what they believed in. Rufus Lewis, all those kind of people. The church played the mass meeting and people gathering. Black people were together. Now, what has changed the most now is which is most annoying to me is that I think now we're probably the most separated now than were back in that day because the church is not as involved as it was at the time because we do have politicians
Right.
like myself, but in a lot of ways we cannot come together as one unified body. Okay, when back in the day we went into those churches with mass meetings and stuff, we heard one word and we were unified. So I think now we should be more unified now, but we're not.
So that being said, what do you see as the future? Do you think it's going to get better? Do you think it's going to get worse in civil rights? Do you think that race will ever be an issue at any time anymore?
I think it will be because right now we don't right just like here in Montgomery we don't own the tall building, we don't own the banks. I'm talking about African Americans, okay?
Yes, sir.
And we got to learn to live with each other. And my future, I see in the future people like yourself and people like the other institutions here in Montgomery Public School. That's the reason I support public schools the way I do,
Yes,
because
sir.
I want you all to be able to take the baton and run with it.
Right.
We can learn a lot from you all just today. And that's what I said. When I was young, I listened to the elderly, not people that my own age, because there were some gifts that they had that we did not have. And when I say gift, there were knowledges that they had we didn't have. And like now, with social media and all the things that you all have to your disposal, I mean, you can teach us a lot.
Right.
So I think the future is with you all.
a lot of young adults and a lot of kids, they feel like they're powerless. And what would you say to that? What do you think a young adult of my age or younger can do to help civil rights between people?
I think you should learn the history like you're doing now
Okay.
on what happened back during that time. Don't use that as a way to be vindictive or be hateful, but use it as a learning experience. That's what I did. You know, I learned that I have to live with people, you know, and we all bleed the same red blood,
Right.
okay? We not might not be the same color, but we all bleed the same blood. And you, the school that you in, you're there. You have Caucasian friends,
Hmm.
and I mean you go to movies together, you study together, all those things. Back during the time when I was in school, that didn't happen. So yeah, our future is bright as long as you all continue to do the things that you all are doing as a group now.
Um, we talked about your most vivid memory, and we talked about your heroes. How do you think that civil rights leader like Parks and King helped influence you?
I would, you know, it takes like I said, my mom was a single parent,
Hmm.
okay, and my tolerance level for things happening in society now because they say we got single parent
Right.
is zero because
Hmm.
I was raised by a single parent. Women are probably the most bravest people that I know on this earth. And Rosa Parks exemplified that when she decided, hey, I'm not going to move. I have those rights. Dr. Martin Luther King, at the age of 26, 27 years old, to be as gifted with the words coming out of my mouth, he had to be anointed by the good Lord above
Hmm.
to be that leader. Uh, and he did what God sent him to do. And and I mean, he was very inspirational. You hear his speeches now. You can sit, and if it touches you, you might cry behind it because of the things that you know he died for, and some of those things right now are not happening. I think a lot of things that's happening right now. He'll probably be turning over in his grave.
Absolutely. Dr. King spoke a lot of times in church because he was a minister.
Hmm.
And you talked about earlier in the interview how the church was the base during the civil rights
Hmm.
movement for empowering African Americans. Do you think if the church got involved again today, that would change? And how do you think it would affect today?
Most certainly. And, you know, back during that time, you know, we were not an educated people as
Hmm.
we are now. Okay, and we looked for the ministers, the teachers, the taxi drivers, who was all over the city to educate you, to give you knowledge that you, and we always respected those people. What I'm saying now, the church is still that foundation that we all need to make these things work. You know, like now, I'm at church every day. Not every day, but every
Hmm.
Sunday, okay?
Hmm.
And I feel bad when I don't go. But when I come out of church, I want to make sure that I do what I'm supposed to do.
Yes, sir.
You know, a lot of times we stay within those walls of the church. It's just like what we talk about the black churches and the white churches. Sometimes it looks as though that we're using two different Bibles,
Hmm.
but it's not two different
Yes, sir.
Bibles. And you probably heard from your mom and dad they've started something they call economical what the economical services. Where all of them come together. The churches come together. You know, the white churches, the black churches come together and they worship together. That has began to happen. I say, but the church is the foundation.
One last question. If you had one message to give to young adults and adults today in terms of civil rights movement, whether it's not to forget this or that, or what would you say, or what would be your message?
My message is to stay in school, continue to study, learn what your ancestors had gone through to make it possible for you to be educated the way you are, the places that you go to. When you, back in the day, Josh, when you couldn't drink out the same water fountain, you could not
Hmm.
sit at the same eating counter, you could not go to the same movie.
Hmm.
Uh, I just want them to keep that in the back of their mind and say, hey, you know, I want to do, even though I might not be a minister, I want to do what the Rosa Parks and Dr. King stood for. That was nonviolence. Uh, let's not hurt each other. Let's love each other. You would never hear me say I dislike anybody or I hate anybody. I'm always love somebody. It might be some people that I don't want to be around,
Right.
but I'm going to love them because that's what God wants us to do. He wants us to love each other. and want us to talk to each other. Communication is the best thing. You know, you don't know it all, so you need to be a listener also.
Thank you. That's all the time we have, Commissioner Dean. I'm Joshua Trimble from Booker T. Washington Magnet High School, and this is the March for the Ages.